everyone. Welcome back to the Mashtia Collective podcast. My name is Anna.
And my name is Juliana.
And today we're going to talk about the importance of play. This is something that we kind of touched on in a previous episode and alluded to, and how, as human beings, we often need play. I think it's very well known that kids need it as, part of their social and cognitive development. And when we hear the word play, I guess that's what we associate it to. But as adults, I think we also need that space to play, and as creatives as well. But it's an aspect that is not, I guess, as often talked about or referenced and whatnot. And so we basically just wanted to do an episode doing a little bit more of a deep dive on what play can look like for adults and creatives, why it is important, and also just share a little bit of what that looks like for us.
For sure. Yeah. Just a disclaimer, I have a cold. So if I sound like I have a cold or I feel a little bit more less upbeat than usual, it's because I've had so much Dayquil today, and I just feel like if it wasn't, I'm thankful for our modern medicine and drugs, because if it wasn't for that, I probably would be just laying on the sofa. So there's that. But this is a topic that I actually like a lot, because I never thought of it until I feel like the education system in general has a lot of things that can be improved on, but it also has a lot of really good things. And I think the way the education system incorporates play into how they, not just the way they teach, but also you have recess and you have breaks and you have labs and things that help you explore and all of those things. I think of course it could be better. And nowadays there's education systems that are even better than the ones we had, where Montessori and things like that, where they're very into the children's development. But I think when I was out of that,
it's become so popular, right?
It's become so popular.
So many of the schools now are switching to more of that system than what we grew up with.
Exactly. But I think that as soon as I was out of that system, I didn't realize how important it was for me personally to continue to stay motivated and stay engaged, I think. Because for me, I went to university for music, as some of you may already know. And I think something that I really have to credit my university for is that the way they did their music degrees in particular, even though they wouldn't call it play, but because there's a lot of practice and a lot of hands-on learning and a lot of actually playing. So you had a lot of time to explore and to kind of adventure and to compose and to write and to do all these things that were playful in nature. So while it wasn't let your mind wander kind of play or trying to solve, but it was still kind of problem solving and those things that you learn while you play, that really allowed me to be continue to be inspired and just cognitively relaxed, I guess, in a way, because I didn't feel like I had load all the time. And so then when I graduated university, I was like, oh, I'm missing something. And it took me a long time to realize what it was that I was missing, Yeah,
I think something that you said really caught my attention, and it's how in schools, of course, there are certain classes, like science classes, for example, that could allow for that experimentation or that little bit of play. I guess it was a bit of or the way that I remember it at least, and I think it has maybe conditioned the way that I even see play now, is it was very segmented and compartmentalized. While you're in class, you behave a certain way, you don't mess around, you don't fool, you pay attention, all these things. And then break time is a time for play, to be free, to, whatever it is, to explore. And then even our homework life was very regimented. The way that I remember a lot of it, I don't remember a lot of our homework assignments being really kind of think about this topic, or maybe some of them I don't know, some creative writing assignments or something like that, but they were still very much within boxes. And I think when I say that it conditioned me, it was growing up, maybe I also kind of have put play in a box where I'm what I do in my day-to-day is not play if it's kind of mandated or regulated. But my free time is when I play. And I think that your idea is very interesting, because the way you're saying it is like play can be integrated within what you do.
Yeah.
And of course, I think that that will probably ring more true in certain disciplines than others.
Yeah.
But at least like for me, I feel like I've been feeling that strain of not having enough play, but because I've compartmentalized it and I haven't integrated it into my day-to-day life. And I think that's just like a really interesting point, because in my head it was just like, oh, this is the have to do's and the plays where I'm free, as opposed to being like, no, there can actually be a bit of an integration of both.
Yeah, and I think something that would help us probably, not just us, but also like the listeners, is to define play, right? Because like in your mind, play can be like actual literal grab a ball and play, or in your mind you probably think about the playground or things like that, but that is not necessarily what we're talking, like it could be, but it's not necessarily what we're talking about. So what's play for you, I guess, is the important question.
I guess play for me is the voluntary activities that I can engage in for the full pleasure of it, for just like the mere enjoyment and pleasure. They can have outcomes, you know what I mean? Like, if I think that going to a dance class is a space where I feel that I can play because it's voluntary, because it's a space where I feel free, where it inspires me, where I can move freely within the constraints that the class provides. Like I'm not, you know what I mean? Like I'm in a studio, if we're doing a choreography, that I'm like following it. But at the same time, like even though there are like those constraints, like I still feel free in that space. I would consider that like playtime, and it may have like a health outcome and a fitness outcome or something like that, but that's not my primary motivation. So like to me, play are those things that like, and this is very subjective, very personal, but those things that I'm not quantifying, I'm not thinking, I'm not, I remove completely the productivity-oriented mindsets, the efficient mindsets, the quantifying mindsets, and it's just like the space where I can like explore my own creative self, explore, what my creativity, explore, wander, just like literally kind of, be free in the most abstract sense of the word, but I guess like that's it. But it's like also voluntary, and I think that maybe now that I say that, it's the reason why maybe I also haven't felt that merging between the things that are kind of assigned to me and play, because those things that are assigned to me, I can enjoy them as much as I would play, but it's like still given to me as opposed to me choosing, if that makes sense.
No, and
I don't know. What's play for you?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, actually, what you were saying about the things that are voluntary versus things that are assigned to you. I think for me, play is just anything that brings me joy or anything that brings me joy or excitement. So the way I see it is sometimes, for example, and I guess, as soon as you bring like tie outcomes into it, or like deliverables or KPIs or whatever, then it becomes less free in a way. But I guess for me, like if I'm working on I love a state of flow in doing something that brings me excitement or joy. Like for example, it can range from like playing a video game where like I'm just sitting and flowing and just getting things done, and it's something that I have never been like a huge gamer. I've always liked like car games, and that was about it. But then recently, I think I talked about this in like a couple of episodes ago. I started playing Zelda on our Switch, and then I got really hooked. And then I started playing Hogwarts Legacy, and I got really hooked on that one too. And
dude, you bought it. So we bought Hogwarts Legacy around the same time.
I got it for Christmas.
I got it first, like I don't know, around its release,
like a month
around its release. And like Nintendo or like video games is such a good example actually of what we're playing, because like I'm quite bad at them. I will say that, like, admittedly, but I have never cared being bad, because I just genuinely enjoy it, and it's like pleasurable, and I don't care if I lose, I don't care if I'm not great, I don't care if I'm not advancing like too quickly. It's just like one of those things that lets my mind kind of unplug, and I just find some pleasure in it. occasionally, whatever. And so anyway, I bought this video game. I told you about it. And I'm like, it's actually quite solid. I think it's pretty good, blah, blah, blah. And then you got it for Christmas. And then like this girl, like, 3 weeks later, she's like, I'm already on like level 13 or something. I was like, still in level 4. I was like, what? And then I'm asking you all the questions like, how do I defeat this guy? Like, what do I do now? Yeah, I'm like super, super stuck and I can't like move forward. And you've got all the tricks and you're like, make sure you're opening chests and like doing this and doing that.
Rebellion.
Yeah. And I was like, what? Dude, you just got it.
I just like in this, and that's interesting too, because I feel like each individual finds pleasure in different things. Like I love the feeling that comes with like completing tasks. And my day-to-day life wouldn't necessarily reflect that, because I'm not like I think this is where I have a theory. Follow. Maybe you can follow, because this is where this is one of the areas where we differ, and when we're like we support each other professionally and in many other areas. You are the organization queen. You'll set up the Notion, and I'll just show up and do what I'm told to make sure that the thing gets done. But when I'm playing a video game, I'll like look at the charts and make sure that I'm ticking every task. Whereas you show up and just kind of explore the world. So I think in for us, and I don't think it's for everybody, but for us, the way we play and the way we live are like, because we are completely different. Yeah. Like are opposite of each other, because we're opposite of each other in the way that we live. You know what I mean? I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense, but
totally. Yeah. And I think yes. And I think that, it really comes down to like what you were saying, where we have like, there's maybe a formal or psychological definition of play, but the way that it will manifest in different people, because of what we subjectively find joy and enjoyment and pleasure in, is like so subjective again, right?
Exactly.
So like for me, turning on a video game is turning all like my organizational, project planning, strategy, like persona off. Because it's like, no, it's my time to like do the opposite of what I do in my day-to-day life and like tap into this other more spontaneous exploratory part of myself. Yeah. Whereas for you, like it's flipped, right? Yeah, and not that you're not organized or whatever in your day-to-day life, but it may be like it's when you turn on that video game, like that strategy mindset comes in and you want to hit these milestones and all of this, like that may be like in your in the way that you approach tasks that are not for play, you have another approach for them, like altogether, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of where, like that's like kind of my theory, and I think it's for everybody is different. I love when I'm playing. I love that feeling of completing stuff or leveling up, I guess, is the actual definition. And that's probably why I can also integrate it to my day-to-day, because I sometimes find ways, and this goes back to, I think I mentioned this book once, the book Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal. And he talks about how basically like the way to trick your brain into wanting to be productive is tricking your brain into making it think that you're playing all the time. Right. And some things are not going to feel like playing. I like really dislike Excel spreadsheets. I know this is my example always, but it's because I like my hatred of Excel is so big. I'll figure it out, but I hate it. So whenever like I have to do something, for example, my husband loves a spreadsheet. So whenever like I'm planning a trip, he wants to see the spreadsheets to see all the comparisons of all of the flights, all of the hotels, all of the things. And like I couldn't be bothered. I'm like, I'm just gonna book whatever I feel like booking. Yeah. But then whenever I'm planning a trip and I know that it's gonna make him feel better if he sees a spreadsheet, that I find a way to gamify that, and to make it into like a sense of play. And the way that works that for me is the leveling up that I don't know.
I hate this. Like just like a little break, like I hate it. We're recording on Zoom, as you can probably tell if you're watching on YouTube this episode, and this like new feature of like it's on WhatsApp as well, and Zoom, and like FaceTime,
Apple devices.
Where if you like do a thumbs up, whatever, you'll see this random bubble show up. Like, who invented this? Please remove it.
Yeah.
End of my rant.
I think you can remove it yourself, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll show you later.
Okay.
But yeah, no, and that's kind of like my trick in trying to implement brain to play into what I do every day. Or if I'm doing something very repetitive, it's like I love discovering new music, so I'll just play something like a new album that I haven't heard. And so if while I'm doing the repetitive thing of like, say, is data tracking or things like that, things that don't require a lot of photo editing, that don't require a lot of like, it requires detailed attention, but not like all of my brain, then I can listen to something else. And then that's my play, trying to figure out chord structures or things like that. So I don't know. And that's how I can implement it in my day-to-day, but I still need the like empty sense of wonder that you can't get from a assigned task. The like, let's go explore a town, you know, and like without any expectations, and like let's just go. And it's something that you are really good at, that you actually inspire me to do, the way you travel. And you're just like, you don't book restaurants, you just book hotel and flight, and then you kind of figure it out as you go, and like find a spot here to have a coffee. That inspired me, because I tended to be more the like other way, where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna book all of the restaurants and just make sure that, and it's like, but then you're missing out on the exploring and then the world building in your head. So those kind of things I still need.
Yeah. And and actually when you were talking about travel, I was thinking about that too, because like I think if someone met me in like a work environment or a project environment, for example, they probably wouldn't believe how I travel. But to me, travel is part of that play. And so I almost refuse. I will say, I won't say I completely refuse, because unfortunately after COVID, a lot of things now you just have to book. Like that's the way that...
And there's things you must book, like this La Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. You have to book that if you want to get in. Like there's no other way.
Exactly. So last time when I went to Europe a couple of years ago and I did a trip, I'm like, I booked flights and hotels, and then I just looked at what like places or attractions that I definitely wanted to see, that were like a must see for me, and needed to be booked in advance. And then I did those. And even then, to be honest, like I didn't love it, because like, for example, one of the museums in Madrid, I booked in advance for the day that I arrived, because I was only going to be there for 3 days. But I was so tired when I got there, and it was so hot. And like it wasn't a big distance to walk, but my feet were sore. I don't know. But I was like, oh, I already have this ticket. Like I have to go now, as opposed to like just having the flexibility of, you know what, maybe I'll go a little bit later and I'll settle in at the hotel, like rest for a bit and then go, or I'll just go tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But anyway, I definitely like include travel into my play personality, or my play approach, I guess, where I'm just like, yeah, I want to feel the pleasure of this. I don't want to feel stress. I think stress is a big part of me. Like for me, the absence of stress represents play, or the absence of unhealthy stress, because like while I'm playing a video game, I'll probably get stressed. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I don't really like who I become sometimes when I'm playing video games, and I'm not competitive. I'm actually not competitive at all. But when like I did last time, a friend of mine was so scared because we were playing Mario Kart, and I was like in 16th and she was like 15th, whatever. We were already battling like the last places. And she threw like a bombshell at me. I yelled at her in a way that I haven't yelled at anyone in years. And she was like, okay. Once the race was done, she was just like, we should turn this off before you yell at me again. And so I'm like, I can't remember what I was saying. The absence of stress. So yes, like of course, like I will get stressed, but in like a fun, lighthearted way.
Well, yeah.
But I think anything that does or has the potential to produce any sort of unhealthy kind of stress,
like high stakes.
Yeah, more high stakes things, I wouldn't probably categorize it in like the play thing. So I think that's like, yeah, I definitely find that play in my life plays that counterbalance role of like de-stressing. Yeah. You know, if that's, of course I don't do it with that outcome in mind, but one of the roles that play plays in my life is as that de-stressing activity or factor.
Yeah. And I think it's important to have I find ways to incorporate it into my day-to-day, but I think it's important to have spaces that are like completely low stakes, because I think it also helps you. I'm really bad at this, and it's something that I'm trying to get better at, actually intentionally, to enjoy the present. And I think when we don't have those times to play and those times to wonder and with low stakes where we're not thinking of something else or thinking of the next thing, because I think when you have a very, and I mean for some people it works, it's great, but for me when I have a very packed like scheduled itinerary,
Yeah.
in what's supposed to be my play space, then I get stressed because I'm like, I'm here, I'm seeing this painting, but I'm thinking of the restaurant I booked. So I kind of have to like chop, the painting is over, go to the, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I
Right.
think just having those spaces to play and to be kind of there's nothing right now, nothing else matters. We're here. This is what matters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's something that I'm trying to learn to be better at. Again, my husband is great at it, so I think that's kind of why he like likes doing the pre-planning into the trip. So as soon as we get there,
Yeah.
then it's like, ah, it's fine. We wake up at 8, wake up at 9, wake up at 7, whenever. Like whenever my body
Yeah.
wants to wake up, go find a breakfast in the corner or the other, or go sit at the park. Like he's not kind of as stressed as I can, as sometimes I can get, because I feel like, and the reason why I need play to counteract is because I feel like if I'm not taking advantage of each second of this moment,
Yeah.
be it traveling, be it experiences, working, weekends, then I
Yeah.
feel like I'm wasting time. But then
Yeah.
the only reason to not get in that mindset is actually to actually enjoy the moment. But then I'm thinking about enjoying the moment and I'm overthinking. It's always, you know what I mean? So it becomes,
Yes.
because I don't let myself just play for the sake of play. I
Yeah.
think,
And
sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I just, it's funny to finish the thought. Like one of the best weekends I've ever had was 2 weekends ago, where my husband and I, like the Saturday, we just played video games all day until because I go to church on Saturday, so we played video games all day until it was time to go to church, and then we went to church. And that was it. Like we weren't thinking of like, we tried to be conscious of time because we were in the church, but like other than that, it wasn't like. And then on Sunday it was raining, so we just went to we bought a puzzle, and then we just put the puzzle together. I
Yeah.
made some dinner, and it was just like enjoying every second without thinking about it. But because when I get over in my head about it, then it's just the worst, you know?
Yeah. No, and I think it's so key what you just said about the process, because like if we go back to our childhood when we play, I don't know what you played with as a child, but to me when I played and when I think back to that time, it was like, yeah, there's no thinking of what's coming next. Like when I was in the playground running around or whatever it is that I did, more out of peer pressure than pleasure, because I've always been low-key lazy. But I was like, I knew the bell was gonna ring, but I wasn't in the playground anxious about next period. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was there. I was running around, and if we're running around chasing each other, like playing tag or whatever it is, I'm like, I have no idea of like how all these games are called in English. But like we're running around and playing,
Like hide and
like
seek or whatever.
yeah, hide and seek, like all of this. I knew that something else was coming, but my mind wasn't racing. I was in the moment. My focus was only on like tagging someone or finding someone or hiding well, and I'm like fully taking pleasure and enjoying the moment where I was in. And I think that like that is so key for play. But I think that in our productivity saturated like society and mindset, it can be very difficult to completely strip that intention of play from the outcomes that we were talking about earlier, from the like what benefits can it bring, like what do I need to do next, what is like stress, like it's just so hard to strip it all out, like away. But I think if we manage to do it, it will like be so beneficial for like us, for our own like creative selves, just for our health, honestly, like mental and physical. Especially like if the play that you do involves some sort of like outdoor or movement or things that like, and of course there are benefits, but when I say like not thinking about the benefits or like stripping it up from, it's like not doing it in a way that you're forcing yourself to do it. Like I've told I've said it many times here where I'm like, I wanted to force myself to be a runner, and I'm just like, I'm just not. And for some people, running is their playtime. So, but I was like trying to force myself to like it and make it my play, because like, it's so good to be a runner. And I'm like, no. I'll reap the same benefits doing something else that I actually like. But I know that it can be hard to find what that looks like for every person, what that is. Because like even when you were talking about like your husband, I'm thinking like it's so interesting that for some people, if we go back to our original like kind of definition of it being voluntary, something that brings you joy, pleasure, excitement, wonder, for some people organizing a trip, for example, can be that, like could be their play, you know what I mean? Because I'm thinking of my mom. she could definitely like could have been a travel agent. And for her, planning a trip and looking at activities and doing that research and figuring out from where to where and routes, like for someone it could be work and it could be draining and it could be like, you know, I need a break and I need play after this. Whereas for some people that planning process could actually be the play when it's and it's not an assigned thing, but just like a voluntary, you know, I'm super excited about this trip kind of thing. So I don't know, it's just like an interesting thing.
Yeah, when I was that book that I mentioned also had, because it had a whole section. This is a whole like section of the book on how to make your life a little bit more gamified or like more into play. And it was like, and I just looked it up because I remember this point. He was talking about like we have play personalities. Like this is gonna be very nerdy, and I don't really play this, but there's this like this game, this tabletop game called Dungeons and Dragons that is super famous. And in Dungeons and Dragons, you have different characters, and as you play the game, it's a role play game. So you're role playing into the character, and each character has a different I mean, if you play D&D, I don't play D&D. I'm just kind of talking of what I know. I might be completely wrong, but I think each character has a different set of traits. And so the author of the book was talking about how to find your traits. And as society, I think, I mean, these are helpful indicators, but they don't have to be the rule. But I think there's different kind of play personalities that we have. There's people that like, there's the collector. So I'm just gonna kind of read them out because I have them here. The collector is people that enjoy building connections, such as collecting stamps or your vintage cars. Like I think of your mom, for example, that has like collections of things, or people that like love going around the world and collecting things, and or maybe even for me is photography. Like I love collecting photos, so I'll go and like take photos of things or whatever that is. And then there's the competitor. So you enjoy playing and winning games with specific rules, like playing like in your neighborhood league, or people that like enjoy playing things competitively. That's not you, you know. It maybe also isn't me, because like I'm not gonna go. I hate sucking at things, so I'm not gonna go do something that I know I'm gonna suck at. So I'm competitive, but not in that way, you know. So then there's the creator or the artist. They find joy in making things work, and like doodling, woodworking, decorating, fixing machinery, sewing. That's like my husband, for example. He loves problem solving and making puzzles and making things work. So whenever there's like a puzzle or something that like gets his brain working and like takes it away from like real life, that's like his way of playing, for example. Or even putting trips together, like that can be in there too. There's the director. You enjoy planning and directing, like hosting team birthday parties. The people that love hosting. Like those people, you know, and there's always a friend in every friend group that you can think of that's like, oh yeah, that person hosts, like they love making a charcuterie board, you know, and that's like their thing. And then there's the explorer. You play by discovering something new, either physically or mentally. You might play by going on a vacation to a new place or discovering a new type of music. So what your mom just said, like what you just said about your mom, sorry, that like she likes to plan it and like discover all these different things. So for me, like discovering new music, or just discovering a couple of years ago, we went to Toronto to see Rosalia. And we just like bought the flights and the hotel and the tickets to the concert. Obviously, we were gonna just show up and just hope to get in. But that was it. And then that's like very unlike me. But I knew that I could benefit from your style, you know. So we just kind of chilled, and it was great. We like found delicious food, walked around, found amazing coffee. Like it was awesome. So like that.
And we had like a few spots that we wanted to hit, but then we realized how big Toronto is. Yeah. And we realized that to go from one place to the next that we wanted to go, it was like 45 minutes. And we were just there for a couple of days. So we're like, let's just stay in this area and walk then. And then we just kind of chilled. Yeah.
And it was great. So that's a form of playing, I guess. Sorry, the cold is making it almost impossible for me to talk in any language. Then there's the Joker. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. People that enjoy being silly and foolish and enjoy like theater or, you know, acting or just making people laugh. Yes. There's the kinesthete, the one that enjoys moving their body as play. Yeah, so like yoga, whatever. People that enjoy going for runs as play. I like running, but not as play. You know, I need a break after going for a run. There's people that like. There's a pastor in my church that dude will go for like bike rides that are like 200 kilometers, and he just that's his play.
And that hits
I,
that.
yeah.
I would say dance could fall into that category for me, but then like exclusively. Oh, and boxing. And now boxing.
And I think you find your thing. I think for all of us there's a thing. For me it's also like boxing and spinning and like walking around and outside, those kind of things. And then the last one in this list, and there's probably more, but this is like these are the like big categories that can help you kind of find your play style, is the storyteller. And you play by listening to stories or by creating stories. And you enjoy, going to the theater or going to movies or writing in a journal or those kind of things. So that's, I just kind of wanted to put them out there as kind of my closing thought, just for those who maybe don't know what their play style is. This is an informative way to figure it out and to start, trying things out and see what helps you.
Totally. I think that from the list you read, where would you categorize yourself?
I think I am a creator. I think you can be a few things, I think a creator, explorer, and sometimes like the kinesthete or whatever. Am I saying it right? I think so.
I have no idea.
I don't know. The person that moves, but only specifically in like very particular cases.
Yes.
How about you?
Yeah. I think I'm probably the explorer and the storyteller. And then again, yes, the mover. I'm going to call it the mover. Exclusively for dance. Very often for boxing. But then almost nothing else.
Yeah, same. Like,
nothing that
I like boxing. I like to dance, but I'm so bad at it. That's the same thing. It's like I hate doing things like I suck at.
You're not bad. No, I've watched you dance like.
I mean, but I'm not like I'm not like if we've been to a few like Zumba classes and things like that, and I get lost all the time. Like the choreography, I just cannot. Which is weird because I can follow like I'm boxing or the complex combos. I follow those easy.
Yeah.
But like choreography, it just messes me up. I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is so interesting and like, kind of part of what we reiterate very often in on this podcast, and we probably will continue because, when you talk about creativity, there's very few measurable or not measurable, but like rule kind of things. Like there are patterns, there are theories, but there's a saying in Spanish that's like cada cabeza es un mundo, like every head is its own world. And so, as much as creating that spreadsheet can be play for your husband, it's like, and it can be someone else's worst nightmare, the complete opposite of play. Or sitting and journaling can be, someone can dread that because they want to be outdoor and moving and running, and that, and something like sitting down and listening to someone tell me a story or writing my own can be like my idea of like, just my ideal world. Yeah. And so that's, the important thing is always, as we go back and say, to like start getting to know your own creative self and what play looks like for you, because all the benefits of play that children experience and the reason why we advocated so much for kids, they're still applicable to us as adults.
100%.
Like the fact that we have grown up and should know better and like all these things, like, in quotes, that's ridiculous. Like however play benefits kids, it still benefits us. We still need to keep on developing our divergent thinking, our imagination. We still need to move our bodies. We still need to continue developing socially, especially right now that like so much of our interactions are now mediated by a screen. We need to continue to develop that ability to be social, right? And to work with others. And we need to continue to develop like emotionally and all of these things. So I think it's like not forgetting that, that need that we felt as kids as play, like we still have it, it's still there, and we should still allow ourselves to experience that and to reap the benefits of it.
Totally. Yeah, that's and I'll 100%. And I'll put we'll put the link for the article that I just read out of in the show notes, but it's also connected to the book that I've mentioned a few times. I think it's also on our Instagram. If you scroll through, you'll see the post where we put some of our recommendations. And yeah, that book is great, honestly. It's one of my favorite productivity books because it doesn't talk about it in a overly unhealthy, hustly kind of way. It's very well, the book is feel good productivity. So finding ways for things to feel good, because that's ultimately what's gonna make it stick, and both for getting things done, but also for life, and learning
Yeah.
yourself. Is learning to know those things that feel good, but that also do you good, because there are things that feel good that are not necessarily good for you. So it's kind of like finding that that balance. So,
Yeah. Totally. Okay. I love it. I hope you have been inspired to play more. And we'll see each other next episode. Remember that you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at MachtiaCo, MachTaico. And also follow us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel, and also on any platform where you listen to podcasts.
yes.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.